I've continued exploring the gel print and trace monotype combo that I shared a few videos back under the notes tab in a fun little things video. And I just wanted to share that process with you. As I'm going along here, I will share some substitutions that you can use if you don't have everything here, and some other things you can try. But I'm not banking on my brain to remember it all. So my main goal here is just to show you the basic process. And then from there, if I forget stuff, you guys can, think about things that you want to try to, add to this process and customize it to your liking. I'm using a mask. You can freehand something, or you can choose to just work directly on your gel plate. Tracing paper, a couple sheets of paper. I suggest starting out to just go with white paper because this process will be easier to see on white paper. I've tried it on toned paper and it's just a little trickier. Okay, I mean, not like super tricky, but you have to really think about colors and stuff. Anyway, gel plate. Mine has grungy stuff from the last time I used it, and I don't care about that. You're going to need something to trace with. You'll need oil pastel for your tracing paper, and paint, of course, for your gel plate. Okay, here, my brain is working for this part. If you don't have a gel plate, you do not need to get one. You can actually print on an acetate surface. Think about glass that you might have in a frame, an old glass cutting board, just a simple piece of silicone, like a silicone baking mat, anything like that that's a non-porous, smooth surface will be perfect for printing. You do not need a gel plate. If you don't want to purchase a gel plate, but you are interested, there are also recipes online for making your own. Okay, good job, brain. All right, here we go. I'm going to, of course, be placing well, not of course, because you don't know which way is the correct way. This is the way I want the image to print. So I'm going to flip it over on the gel plate. Now I'm trying to think about colors. I have not done that ahead of time, of course, because I do most things flying by the seat of my pants. I think I'm going to go with this Veronese green. And there are lots of different things you can do with your printing process. You could do a background, like a stencil pattern first or last or somewhere in the middle. I'm going to keep it really simple. And it's also good to have some room to clean off your brayer. You can have a journal or an old book open, nearby and brayer off into that. I think that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, you can see this is beading up. I probably should have mixed up my paint. I usually don't bother with that, but I also like this speckly look. And it could probably also use another coat of paint, but I ain't doing it. You can do fancy registration with your paper. I don't. I just kind of set it next to the plate here and eyeball it. I like to use a Baren because it gives me the opportunity to create some more even pressure. And when you're using a mask like this, you may end up with a halo around the mask once you're done printing. And you can be ready with more paint and roll that over the halo, and you'll get like a line drawing print. So all of the speckles that are in the plate, they're going to show up in your print. And I love the irregularities of all of this. Okay, once again, eyeballing. quickly moving it over, using my fingers on the side of the clipboard to help me lay it down mostly straight. I just pulled the blueprint, and this is just, it's too yummy to just wipe off. So I grabbed a piece of toned blue mixed media paper and some light pink paint, and I'm just going to add this on loosely and pull the print. I don't really want it to cover the whole plate. I just want to see what happens if I do like a little vignette around it. So this should be interesting to work up. Next step is to take your tracing paper and place it over your shape and trace that shape. I do it very loosely because I like it when the trace monotype area doesn't exactly match the gel printed area. So I kind of hold my pencil askew, or sorry, my brain's not working. The lines are askew because I'm holding my pencil very loosely and I'm moving pretty quickly. You can do this as precisely as you would like, okay? This is just my preference. You may be thinking that, oh, I can just draw something on the tracing paper and have a blank piece of paper and do this process that way. You are correct. You don't need to do the gel print. The trace monotype is a printing method in and of itself, but I like the fun of combining the two processes. So that's what I'm going for. So what I do, of course, you can just, you can cover, traditionally you do cover whatever your printing surface is with your oil paint or printing ink or pastel, charcoal, whatever. You cover the whole thing. But I've already done that during the gel print process. So this is the area that I want to print on now. So I'm gonna focus on adding my transfer material to this area, okay? At this point also, you guys, my brain's doing a good job today. At this point, you can actually draw in other things that you might want to trace, okay? I think I'm going to save that for after I'm done with the trace monotype method, because what I've been trying to do is a little bit of my intuitive pareidolia drawing. And I just look through the shapes and things that are being created by the oil pastel itself once I get it added to the print. When I am applying the oil pastel, I also am not trying to be careful. I always use line as a guide. And I just like to let things get messy and unpredictable. You may have guessed that also when I'm putting the plate down on my print, I don't care about it registering exactly, because it is, I love the off-kilter registration. So that is just me though. Again, this whole thing can be way more precise than what I've done. My new favorite tool for this trace monotype method is a very cheap plastic bone folder, because you can use all the different parts of it. I burnish it lightly with my hand because the oil pastel is sticky. That helps the plate stay in place. And then I just get going. And I always kind of start with a scribble, and you can always pick it up and see what's going on. So as you're kind of peeking to see how things are going, you can decide that, you know, maybe you want to add another color to your tracing paper plate. You can totally do that. Just pull it off and add more color. Okay, I'm going to draw a little butterfly. And I can't totally see what's going on. The tracing paper does kind of, you can see the pastel moving away as you draw into it, but you can't really see everything. So that's nice. And so we'll see how this turns out. So you don't have to get every, you know, last bit of oil pastel off, because the next stage is, for me anyway, is to bring in color pencil, and you use that to keep building up the print. Because for me, the print making is a mixed media process for the most part. Unless I really, really love the print as is, I'm going to always keep playing with other materials. And it is good to note that there is still a lot of material left on this. So you can choose to go ahead and print with it on, you know, another print, or you can, I'm going to say re-ink, because that's traditionally, this is ink, you know. So you can recolor your plate and keep going on another print. And you can also take a blank piece of paper and do a ghost print with this. So lots of ways to play here. So this is when I bring in my pencils and begin to work intuitively as I build out the areas that I am wanting to focus on. I want to bring in some of this aqua color, because I think it's going to help the butterfly stand out. And it's just also going to add a little bit of a favorite color for me to this whole picture. And as I've played around with the colored pencil over the oil pastel, one thing I've learned is it might seem like it's not going to draw. It does have a hard time, the pencils have a hard time drawing into a heavy layer of oil pastel, but if you bear down, the pigment here does actually release. And maybe if I zoom in, you can see what I'm talking about. So here I'm just, you know, going lightly over everything, but where I want to define these butterfly wings, I'm going much more firmly, and you see how the color is releasing. The oil pastel really makes the colored pencil pigment so rich and beautiful. But you do have to add more pressure, so don't be afraid to do that. So this is where it's fun to have the off-centered registration, because it gives you places to bring in other media to play. Before you put your pencils away, you'll want to take your cloth or your baby wipe and clean off the tips, just so you don't get oil pastel mixed in with your colored pencils. I just want to bring in some more line here and a different tone as well. And then, you know, it's also a different texture. And this is why I like using multiple media with these prints. it starts to feel really full and interesting. Let's see, I think I'm gonna add some loops there and maybe a bit more of a rim on the plate, on the pot here. When I'm doing like kettles or potted plants, I like to sit them on something, so I draw that out. And my favorite thing to do is like a little round doily. So I'm gonna stick with that. Again, I hold my pencil loosely. I think I'm just gonna start under the handle here. And I don't worry about a perfect shape. It is so much more interesting when it's imperfect, in my opinion. And then I do the little lacy loops, or my version of them. They're definitely not anything detailed. This is quite a folky, naive approach. This is really close to being done for my liking. The other thing I want to do is just, I love just to add like these scribbly piles of color and draw off the shape. Surprise, surprise. And also come into the shape, and that is too similar, so it's not going to show up, but this darker one will. And there's quite a bit of pastel in here, so you see how I'm going back and forth and I'm bearing down to get the pencil to release the pigment. And here, I'm going to make that mark, and also I'm just going to go off the side because I can and I like it. Okay, and here I'm going to go with the darker green and kind of let that grow out to meet those new marks. I really like these lines here because as I'm looking at it now, even though at the time I was just going with my gut, just working intuitively, this gives the feeling of that, how the flower has another surface. It's the 3D effect. That's really fun. I've never done that before. So yay. This is the tracing paper that I messed up by adding the oil pastel to the wrong side. And I've just worked it up like I did previously. And I have a blank piece of paper, and I'm just going to do a tracing onto the paper that is closer to the traditional trace monotype. Okay. Now, as I'm looking at this, I don't like this green with what's going on. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to take a sharp little palette knife, and I'm going to remove as much of this layer of green as I can. It won't all come off, but a lot of it will. Okay, set this aside, and then go to this as well and take off that color. I'm going to grab a lighter green to go down on here. And I'm going to look in my Caran d'Ache Neo Pastel box and add in some other lighter greens. And I think I'm going to add a bit darker yellow. Something more like an ochre here and here. And I always like to do a little pattern at the bottom like that. Okay, I think I like the way those colors feel. I'm going to do a little bit more of an earthy green. Okay. And I'm not going to be overly concerned about getting everything exactly back in the right place. Let's see what we get there. Yeah, that's definitely a better color choice. But now I think I'm just wanting more red. So I might actually bring in pencil because it's going to allow me to get more of the detail that I'm wanting. But look at that. I mean, that's just a great start. And so this is why you don't need a gel plate. You don't need to do the combination print because this is basically the same thing. Just quickly here, I'm gonna play with Mr. Sun. So sweet. So then, there we go. Here's a look at the quick little vignette print that I pulled. I just added the oil pastel more in blocks of color. And I, as you can see, highlighted the vignette, the pink vignette, and then I added just messy dots of oil pastel to add some zing to the background. This is probably my favorite from today because it's so messy. I added a lot of oil pastel which squished out of the tracing paper. That happens if you push really hard. So this was purposeful, or purposeful on purpose. And I love it. All right, so here's a little overview what I did today. And this is the one I worked on camera. I really like this too. I like everything that happened today, and that is not always the case. This is the backwards, my tracing paper mistake. But you can see you're still able to use it, and this was without being gel printed first. This was just the trace monotype, and then this was that vignetted kind of ghost print pull. And I really, really love this one because it is so nice and messy.